All right, let's talk about something that feels, well, a little crazy right now. The world is buzzing about this incredible AI-powered future, but at the same time, so many of us are bracing for a recession. So what's the deal? Let's get into it.
I mean, think about it. In one corner, you've got these revolutionary technologies like AI that are promising to completely change our world and create trillions of dollars in new value. But in the other corner, you've got sticky inflation, high interest rates, and all these headlines screaming about a potential downturn. It seriously feels like we're flooring the gas pedal into the future while slamming on the brakes at the same time.
So here's the thing. This feeling of being pulled in two directions, it's not new. Not at all. In fact, there's a framework, a kind of economic map developed a century ago, believe it or not, that can help us see exactly where we are, where we're headed, and why everything feels so chaotic right now.
Yeah, it's called the Kondratiev Wave, but honestly, you can forget that name. A much, much better way to think about it is as economic seasons. The idea is simple. Over a long, roughly 60-year cycle, economies move through 4 distinct seasons, and each cycle is kicked off by a massive technological revolution. Think steam power, electricity, the internet. And yeah, right now we're living through the birth of a brand new one.
This chart basically lays out the whole cycle. So, think of spring. That's the fresh start. A new technology pops up, innovation is everywhere, and growth feels new and exciting. Then comes summer. That's the big party. Growth is booming, asset prices are soaring, but all that heat brings inflation. Autumn, well, that's when you can feel the party winding down. Growth stalls, all the debt from the good times starts to feel heavy, and those asset bubbles look like they're ready to pop. And finally, winter. Winter is the reset. It can be painful, for sure. It's when debts get cleared out and the old ways of doing things are swept away, making room for the next spring. So the big question is, looking around our world today, which season does it feel like we're in?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. The world isn't all in the same season at the same time. It's more like a global weather map with different climates. So let's use this map to pinpoint where 3 key economies, the United States, China, and Canada, are right now.
Let's start with the big one, the US. And the verdict here, according to this framework, is pretty clear, and maybe a little surprising. The United States is just now coming out of a long, cold winter and is stepping into the very first days of a brand new economic spring.
Okay, so how do we figure that? Well, look back. The last big cycle, the whole dot-com boom, that was our summer and autumn. The 2008 financial crisis, that was a textbook autumn to winter crash. And the decade that followed felt kind of sluggish, right? That was the winter freeze. But now we're seeing the first signs of a thaw. All this energy around AI, clean energy, and biotech, that's the foundation of the next spring being laid. It's messy, no doubt about it, a lot like the late 1940s after the war or the early 80s when the PC was just getting started. But it's the beginning of something big.
But, and this is a huge but, it is a totally different story if you look across the Pacific or just north of the border. China is deep in the middle of a bitter economic winter. They're dealing with the hangover from a massive real estate and debt party, kind of like Japan in the 1990s. And Canada? They're in winter too, but they're lagging a couple years behind the US. They're still wrestling with high inflation and a very fragile real estate market.
So this chart just lays it all out, side by side. You've got the US being pulled into spring by this powerful AI magnet, even with its own debt problems. Then you have China stuck in a deep winter, forced to pay down mountains of real estate debt. And Canada is sort of caught in a lagging winter, really dependent on what the US does next, with its own risks tied to household debt.
Okay, so this is all fascinating theory. But it's not just an academic exercise. Knowing which country is in which season has massive, and I mean massive implications for how you think about your money. So let's crack open the investor's playbook for this new spring season.
Right. This is the big so what question for all of us. If you buy into the idea that the US is stepping into a new spring while other places are still frozen over, where on earth should you actually put your money to work?
Well, for an economy entering spring, a popular strategy is called core plus satellite. It's pretty straightforward. The core is your anchor, about 60% of your portfolio. These are the huge, established tech giants that are literally building the infrastructure of this new world. Then you have your satellites. These are your smaller, more aggressive bets of a high-growth stuff that could really define this new season, like specialized AI companies and the chip makers, all while keeping a bit of cash on the side for safety.
And here's how you could actually do that using ETFs, which are just baskets of stocks. For your core, you might have broad market funds like SPY or the tech-heavy QQQ. For those exciting satellites, you might look at funds that target disruptive innovation like ARKK or robotics like BotZ.
You can see how it works. If you're more aggressive, you just dial up that satellite portion. The whole idea is to balance your solid foundation with targeted bets on the future.
All right, I know what some of you are probably thinking. This all sounds a little too neat, a little too optimistic, especially for the US. So we've got to do a reality check here. We have to tackle some of the biggest doubts head on. And the number one doubt has to be this one. Wait a minute, if we're in a new spring, why do we keep hearing about massive layoffs everywhere, especially in tech? How can AI be our salvation if it's costing people their jobs right now? It just doesn't add up. I get it. It sounds totally contradictory. But if you look at the long arc of history, this isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature of every single major technological revolution. This wave of layoffs, as painful as it is actually a classic and predictable signal that the economy is retooling for what's next. This process plays out every time. First, you get the technology shock. AI arrives. Companies immediately use it to cut costs and become more efficient, which, leads to layoffs. That's the painful part. But here's what happens next, and this is crucial. Those efficiencies create higher profits and free up a ton of capital. That money then gets reinvested into building out the new industries that this tech makes possible, creating entirely new jobs we can't even imagine today. It's the same cycle we saw with farming, factories, and the internet.
Okay, but what if this time really is different? Even if spring is on the horizon, could the global winter be much longer and colder than we've seen in the past? Are there things happening right now that could delay or even derail this whole transition?
And the honest answer is yes. There are some serious headwinds out there. We're reversing decades of globalization, which is making everything more expensive. Geopolitical conflicts are creating constant shocks to energy and supply chains. Global debt is at a record high, which really ties governments' hands. And let's be real, the productivity boom from AI won't happen overnight. It takes time. So yeah, these are powerful forces that can make this transition a very bumpy ride.
So, where does all this leave us? We've got this incredible promise of a new spring, but also the very real risks of a prolonged, chilly winter. How do we pull this all together into a clear takeaway for navigating the years ahead?
You know, it really boils down to this simple idea. Are you planting or are you harvesting? For an economy like the US that's entering its spring, it's planting season. It's time to put seeds in the ground. In AI, in software, in semiconductors. But for economies like China and Canada, still deep in winter, it's a time to seek shelter, repair the foundations, and wait patiently for their own spring to arrive.
And this is the most crucial point. The chaos and the uncertainty we're all feeling right now, it isn't random. It's the predictable, often messy, and ultimately investable transition between these great economic seasons. It's the sound of one engine shutting down as a new, more powerful one roars to life.
So that leaves us with one final question, and this one is for you. As we stand here at this incredible moment, watching the old economic engine get replaced by a new one powered by AI, are you positioned for the turbulence that's guaranteed to come, or are you positioned for the takeoff?